people did. No one in this room, of course. I sat on the couch and got fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. And I tell you, if there's another pandemic, God willing, there won't be anytime soon, buy stock in snacks. If I bought stocks in Doritos, I would be a rich man right now, because I bought most of them and I was eating them all. That's all I did. And then one day I'm flipping through the internet in between snacks, and I see an advertisement for selling books in the age of COVID. I was like, well, I wrote a book like 20 years ago, which was a science fiction novel, which is the best science fiction novel you will never read. And I submitted this book, and the person that looked at it he gave me honest feedback. I mean, within 3 hours, I got a response back. I guess it was a slow summer. So I got this response back that said, this book is absolutely terrible. But you've got a good voice, and you should write what you know. And that's not science fiction. I took that as a challenge. I said, okay, I don't know who this dude is, but all right, I'm gonna show him. So I went home and I wrote the first chapter. Actually, I didn't go home, I was already at home on the couch. You couldn't peel me off of that thing. I wrote the first chapter of the Violin Conspiracy, and I submitted it. It's a photo op, but just for future photo op references, I am what you call a dark person. The flash is my friend. Please use the flash. Don't believe what they tell you in photography stuff. Use the flash, trust me. So I wrote the first chapter of the Violin Conspiracy. She didn't use a flash. That's not going to come out. That's going to be a blur. So I wrote the first chapter of the Violin Conspiracy, and I submitted it. And the next day, I got an email back. Is this a book? I was like, no, I just wrote this yesterday. And the agent said to me, if you write this book, I can sell it. I was like, all right, I'm not doing anything else except slothing on the couch. All right, cool, I can do that. So I started writing. Every day, I wrote every day for 2 months, and I had the book done. It's not an applause line, what are you doing? I tell you, my other author friends hate me because of that. They hate me. Like people, I've been working on this one paragraph for 16 years, and I'm just kind of like, all right, well, I just wrote this yesterday, but okay. And she used the flash. Yes, good on you. So I wrote this. I wrote every day for 2 months, and I had this book done. And my agent said to me, I asked him actually. I said, "What should I expect?" He said, "Absolutely nothing." I said, all right, cool. So I just went back. I actually started exercising at that point because all the clothes that you could wear, you couldn't wear anymore. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not buying any new clothes. I don't have any money." So I started exercising, and I would come home and after running, and I would write every day. Finish the book. It's all done. The first meeting with a publisher my agent had was with, you guys know the publishing company Simon & Schuster? Screw them because they passed on my book. They passed on it, and I was like, all right, cool. But like the very next week, my man, all right, that flash is taking forever. What are you doing? What are you doing? All right. Okay, all right. So we had a meeting with Penguin Random House the next week, and it was a Zoom call. You guys remember Zoom? So my agent calls me. He's in New York. I'm here. He calls me and he says, "Put on a Zoom shirt." What is a Zoom shirt? Just get like 3 shirts and I'll tell you which one works the best. I'm like, all right, dude. So I had on like a purple shirt. No. I had on a white t-shirt. No. Then I had on a black collared shirt. He was like, "That's perfect. Don't move. Don't say a word." I was like, okay. The president, the vice president, the head of marketing, the head of publicity, every other head of Penguin Random House were on a Zoom call with me. And I'm just kind of sitting there and smiling. And they said, "We loved your book. We're starting a brand new imprint, Anchor Books, and we would love for you to be the flagship book for this imprint." And I opened my mouth. My agent texted me and said, "Don't say a word." Just keep smiling. Okay. So I'm kind of sitting there smiling, and they're talking about a bunch of stuff that I have no idea what it's about. And I'm like, all right, cool. So after the meeting, my agent called me, and he said, "You did it." I was like, "What did I do?" He was like, you sold this book, you got a 2-book deal. My first words weren't, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. It was, I got to write another book? Man, I just wrote this one, really? So that's how my writing career started, and I want to thank my agent who actually trusted me enough and believed in me to be able to, I'm not a pro writer, but I love to write, and he actually guided me through the process, and I wrote this story, and people ask, are you Ray? Well, 92% of Brendan is Ray in the story. A lot of those events in the book really did take place, and I experienced them. The wedding scene, you guys remember the wedding scene? This guy doesn't, but you guys remember the wedding scene? Okay, that was I'm not gonna clown you anymore, dude, I promise, I promise. That was it. I can't see your face, but I'm imagining it's not really happy, but okay. Yeah, wow, okay, I'm gonna sit down. So, the wedding scene was actually real. My string quartet in college played at a guy's wedding, and he ushered us, after we played our last note, he ushered us out of the church as quickly as humanly possible. And that was the first time that I had seen hatred in someone's eyes. And this man looked at all of us, who looked like me with the exception of one person, and he said, this is not what I paid for. This is not what I expected. I said, okay. And people ask me, were you mad? I was extremely angry and more hurt than anything else because we thought we played wonderfully. We were happy with the job that we had done, and the bride was happy, but for some reason, he couldn't get past one aspect of us being there, and that was really sad. So that stuck with me for a very long time. The Baton Rouge scene, you guys remember Baton Rouge? The only thing between Ray and Brendan that were not the same, that did not happen, was Ray went to jail, Brendan did not go to jail. But I was driving, we're people of a certain age, so this was pre-GPS. Driving with one of my friends, a teacher, who we decided to take a road trip, before school starts in the summer of 2000. I'm in I just got in a new car, my black Honda Accord. It was cool at the time. I won't drive that now, but it was very cool at the time. And you guys remember road maps? That's what we were rocking, road maps, and totally just, So I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're going to spend the night in Baton Rouge and go down to New Orleans the next day. In Baton Rouge, it's a Sunday, and there is no one on the road. It is dusk. It's just starting to get kind of dark, and we're sitting on the far right lane. And I'm looking at the road map to try to find the hotel. Oh, the hotel's back that way. Okay. So I put on my left turn signal. There's nobody on the road. I'm the only car. Left turn signal, turn, drive, lights and sirens. I'm like, oh, here goes. And my friend, who's white, is in the car. And he's like, what? I was like, dude, this is about to get ugly. He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, just watch. So I pull over. I try to find a spot that is well lit, which was kind of hard to do. And I managed to find a convenience store that was closed. I drove up, pulled up, had my hands on the steering wheel. The cop is on his bullhorn, and he yells, still with the lights going. He's like, driver, get out of the car. I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. So I get out of the car. He's like, driver, show me your identification. So I slowly reached into my pocket, pulled out my wallet, got my driver's license, and held it up. He's like, put it on the ground. I put it down on the ground. He's like, walk backwards. I'm walking backwards. It's like, put your hands on your head. I'm like, okay, here we go, this is it. And get on your knees. It's like, all right. So I'm on my hands and knees, I'm on my knees with my hands behind my head. The cop comes up to me, and I was like, I know, this is it. I'm about to get my head blown off for, whatever it was that I did. And my friend is in the car just like wigging out. He's like, what is going on? I don't understand what is happening. And the cop comes up to me, picks up my driver's license, looks at it, and says, okay, you're free to go. What was that? He's like, oh, you made an illegal lane change. So this is what happens to people in Baton Rouge when they make illegal lane changes. That's what happened to you. I was like, okay, all right. Well, thank you, officer. I will never return to the city of Baton Rouge ever, ever, ever again. It has been 25 years. I refuse to go to that town. I will never go back again. Well, yeah. But that was another, kind of a wake-up call. When I was in college, learning to play, I had my best friend, my absolute best friend to this day, 30 some odd years later, my best friend to this day, I would tell him things that would happen, what people would say, what people would do, the looks that I would get for whatever reason, because I don't know if you're aware of it, but there are not too many people who play violin who look like me. Anybody know a few? Anyone? Yeah. Okay. So these things would happen, and I would tell my absolute best friend, and his response was always, "That's not how it really is. You're just misunderstood. It's probably something that you did." Always. I would get that all the time, and I would just kind of put that behind me. But I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So, the Violin Conspiracy, what prompted me to write this? Believe it or not, I've had this story in my head since I was 9 years old. I started playing violin at age 9 in a public school music program. 9, you might think, oh, well, that's pretty young to play the violin. I was a senior citizen by the time I started playing. If I had started at 4, I would be at the level that Ray got to in the Violin Conspiracy. So I started at age 9. It was a free program at school. All you had to do was rent an instrument. And I am not ashamed to admit it, but when I was growing up, I was super poor. I lived in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and there were days that we didn't know if you were going to pay the rental on the violin or you're going to pay the electricity bill. It was like that. We didn't know. So there were times that I didn't have an instrument for weeks at a time because we could not afford it. So when I did have an instrument, I always made sure that I practiced as much as I could because I loved it. And people often ask me, what prompted you to start playing the violin? Very simple. I got out of class twice a week. When I was in 5th grade, it was right during math, and I hated math. I'm like, yes, I am in. Let's go. And a couple of my friends said that they were going to do it too, but they ended up backing out. So I'm in this strings class with probably 10 other kids, and I'm having the time of my life. This is fun, and learning this stuff. I learned a song the very first day. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Couldn't wait to go home and show my mom that song. So I played through elementary school, and I went to a junior high school. 7th grade, I told you I was not thrilled with math. 7th grade, my 7th grade math teacher, she was the meanest woman on this planet. Her name was Miss Calloway. You might know her. Oh, she was so mean. And I was not doing very well in math. I just hated it. And my orchestra teacher informed me one day that she was very good friends with Miss Calloway. I was like, oh, I cannot see this going well. All right. And she told me, well, Miss Calloway says you're not really doing your homework and you're not passing tests, you're not studying. And I was like, well, she's mean. She was like, okay, but you still got to do your work. I'm like, all right, fine. She could see that I was just kind of BSing, telling her whatever she wanted to hear. So she said to me, if I don't hear from Miss Calloway that your grades are improving, I'm not going to let you play anymore. That's all it took. I started studying. I started doing my homework. And then after a while, I was like, it's not hard to be smart. Why haven't I been doing this the whole time? This is no big deal. So I played through junior high school, I was in another junior high school. We had to move, 9th grade, and in the orchestra class, I was the only 9th grader. The rest were 7th graders. I was the only freshman in the class, including my sister, which if you've ever had a sibling in one of your classes, your mom knows everything that you did before you even get home. It's terrible. It's the worst thing. So I am in this class, and my teacher said to me, you know how to play everything on violin. You're not going to learn anything. What do you think about learning to play the bass? All right, cool. So she taught me how to play the bass, which was a foundation setting me up for the rest of my life, which I didn't realize. So get through 9th grade, I go to high school, and there's no orchestra because I'm the only one that plays violin. So I have to join the band. So I joined the band. The band director knew I was a musician, so he handed me a euphonium. I was like, what is this? He was like, just blowing it. Oh, all right, cool, I can do that. It was the same fingerings as trumpet, and then for some odd reason, I actually knew trumpet fingerings, and I learned to play the euphonium. So 2 years in the marching band and contraband. Then I actually had an orchestra in 10th grade, which my sister was in that class again, and it got even worse. And but the orchestra is there, and I'm playing violin. I was like, that's cool. And I also became the drum major for the marching band. So going through that year, my teacher asked me what my plans were after high school, after graduation. I said, I'm probably going to take a nap. She was like, no, what are you planning on doing after you graduate? I said, I hadn't thought about it. She's like, well, are you thinking about college? I'm like, no, can't afford to go to college. I was thinking maybe the military or maybe just find a job. She said to me, I think that you should apply to UNC Greensboro and major in music education. I was like, what's that? She said, it's what I do. You'd be a music teacher. And I thought, I was like, well, I like you and I like music. All right, cool, I'll try it. So I go to, now keep in mind, I never had a private lesson ever. I barely had a violin to play on, never had a private lesson. And I go to the University of North Carolina. She takes me up there one Saturday to audition. I play a piece of music. I play the piece that's Grandma Nora's favorite piece of music in the book, the piece entitled Rosa Madre. And the cello professor, he's a good friend of mine today. He's the president of University of Richmond today. And he said to me after I finished playing, he was like, who's your private teacher? I said, I don't have one. He said, you just played that and you don't have a private teacher. I was like, yeah. He said, okay. It's like, all right, I blew it. So went home expecting absolutely nothing. I got a call a couple of hours later. We would like to welcome you to the School of Music and offer you a scholarship. Okay, when I go like that, that means applaud. There's no reason to applaud any of that stuff. So I'm like, wow, I'm actually going to college. Nobody could believe it. My mom couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. My siblings were like, what? Yeah, it was nuts. So I get to school. I am a freshman violinist. Prior to that, you know the stolen violin in the Violin Conspiracy? Who thinks that really happened? My senior year of high school, before I went off to college, we took a trip to an amusement park. We ended up staying overnight because the amusement park was in Virginia. I don't know if your house has ever been burglarized, but you know the moment you walk in that something's wrong. I paid no attention to the furniture thrown everywhere, to the TV that wasn't there, to the radio that wasn't there, didn't pay any attention to any of that stuff. I went straight to my hiding spot for my violin, which was under my bed. I looked, it wasn't there. I looked again, it wasn't there. I walked out of my room, I walked back in, I looked again because of course that's where my violin is, it's going to be there. It's gone. It was a 1953 Eugene Lehman violin. And if that sounds familiar, that's the instrument that Ray played on in the Tchaikovsky competition. So if anybody sees a 1953 Eugene Lehman, I won't ask any questions. I'd love to have it back, just saying that. So my teacher, I told her what had happened. You know, I guess that ruins my college plans because I was, going to do all of this and all of this. And in order to buy that violin, I'd been playing church gigs. I'd been playing weddings. I'd been playing concerts. That's what I did. And I had enough money saved up to buy this violin, which I absolutely loved and I sounded great on. So my teacher told some really nice people that she knew about me, about the fact that my instrument was stolen and how, I guess she said that I was a nice kid. They didn't know me from Adam and said, here, you can borrow this 100-year-old violin in an alligator skin case that's been in our family for generations to play on for 4 years. All you have to do is return it after you graduate. Okay, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, these people have never met me. They don't know who I am, yet they're allowing me to do this. So grateful for that act of kindness. So I'm in college. I'm playing. Good stuff. My first violin teacher, my first private teacher, was Sir Trevor Williams. I'm going to say that again. Sir Trevor Williams, meaning he was knighted. Queen Elizabeth knighted this dude. He used to be the concertmaster for the BBC Symphony. So he's a violinist. So my first lesson, I'm going to play a piece that I'd already played, and he gets more and more frustrated with me. He used to travel back and forth from London every 2 weeks to give us lessons. And he was, when I tell you this dude was, he was already like 75 years old. And the flights used to wear him out. And you have to teach all of us violinists. So I'm in my lesson, I'm playing the Bach A minor concerto, the second movement, and I played a B instead of a B flat. Sir Trevor Williams grabs my hands, and he said, "Brendan, Bach would never write a major third here. What are you thinking?" And I was like, "Sir Trevor Williams, I don't even know what a major third is. I'm a freshman." And he was like, "You know, Brendan, your hands are too big to ever play violin in tune. I can't teach you." I said, "Okay." So that was the end of my violin lessons. That was it. I dropped lessons because he could not teach me. Believe it or not, he didn't last very long as a violin teacher. So the next year, before the end of the semester, the spring semester, we had auditions for a new violin teacher. Several people came in. One of them was a former concertmaster from the New York Philharmonic. And that guy, his nose was so high up in the air, it just, I mean, I don't know how he was very snotty. I'm like, all right, I'm sure he's a great player, but he just kind of reminded me of Sir Trevor Williams. And this woman comes in to audition. I will never, ever, ever forget the impression she made. She came in and played a piece that I'd never heard, which was the Zagan by Maurice Ravel, and it was the most incredible performance I had ever witnessed. After her audition, we got to talk a little bit. I told her what Sir Trevor Williams said about my hands. And she said, "Brendan," I was already impressed that she could remember my name. "Brendan, that's rubbish. Itzhak Perlman's hands are twice the size of yours, and he plays beautifully. He's an Israeli violinist who's incredible." So I started taking lessons with this woman, and she taught me every single thing that I know about the violin. Not only did she teach me about the violin, but she taught me how to teach, and I am forever grateful to her for that. So the character of Dr. Janice Stevens, anybody remember her? Is based on my violin teacher. And she said she was the first person that I let read the manuscript when I finished it. I sent it to her. And she said, "Brendan, I was only, and I hadn't spoken to her in 27 years. And she said, "Brendan, I was only going to read for a half an hour. But 3 hours later, I could not put this down." And I don't know how you remember those conversations we had. I don't know how you remember the pieces that I played or that my specialty was this and this. And I said, "It's very simple, because I owe everything to you. And I want to thank you for that. And I hope that the character," wait a minute, it's coming. "I hope that the character portrayal of Dr. Stevens does you justice. That's my only hope. I hope that you feel like I did a decent job representing how much I appreciate you in this story." And then she cried and I cried. I'm like, all right, enough of that. Okay. So Violin Conspiracy is semi-autobiographical, and it's a very, very special book to me. People ask me, "Would you have written this book anyway?" And my answer is yes. I had always planned since the day I picked up my violin in October of 1980 when I was a kid. Since that day, this story has begun to develop. And every instance of everything, good and bad, that I have endured, I put it in this story. It was super cathartic just to get it out, because so many times people had told me throughout my life, "You can't do this. This is not for you. You should do something that you're going to be good at. You should really do something that more people like you will understand and appreciate." And I didn't understand what it meant, until I got older and less naive. And it's like, okay. So I used a lot of that as ammunition. I used it as fuel. I worked 3 times as hard as I needed to. I used to practice 3.5 hours every day, 7 days a week. And I did that for 3.5 years, every day, because I wanted my teacher to be proud of me, and I wanted to be the best that I could be. And I get so much feedback, both positive and negative, from people who just see this. Now, believe it or not, I'm dressed up today. Normally it's jeans and a t-shirt and I'm good to go. But you got to have a strong sock game. Remember that. Always keep your sock game strong. So as I'm going through life, I've heard so many times, Yeah, one time, you're not gonna believe this. One time I was invited to conduct an orchestra. I think it was a junior regional orchestra. They auditioned and 100 kids come in and out of the best out of these schools, and they come in and they perform a concert. I was invited to be the guest conductor. I walk into the place, I'm not gonna tell you where it was. I walk into the place, it's a Friday afternoon. It's like, all right, I'm here. A teacher looks at me. The garbage is right over there, you can take it out. So, the normal reaction for any normal person would be just like, oh, I can't believe you, why would you, I didn't go off on her, I didn't cuss her out or anything. I kind of smiled. I said, that's lovely. When the custodian comes in, I'll be sure to tell him that, but I am here to conduct the orchestra. And I get this blank look, and they're just like, so I go over to one of the violinists, ask them to hand me their instrument. They refused. I asked another kid, hand me your instrument. They refused. It took until I got to the fourth person for them to actually hand me their instrument to play. So I played, and they were like, oh, wow, you really are this person. Okay, now you can go. And I'm just kind of like, you don't even see what just happened, but that's fine. And I'm the type of person that will say, I will take the hits. I will take the hit every time someone looks at me and says, you can't. You're not good enough, without even hearing me. I will take those hits, and I have been taking them for a long time, so that my nephew, when he grows up, he doesn't have to go through this. So when any child who looks like me, or any child, never has to hear from someone, that this is not for you. You can't do this, because I'd heard it my entire life. I don't have a Messiah. Okay, you can go after her. I don't have a Messiah complex or anything. I'm not trying to save everybody. I just don't want anyone to go through what I had to go through. I fought and fought and fought and fought and fought my entire life. And, I would get angry, but I would channel that anger. People often, I have a friend in Australia who read this book, and he said to me, Brendan, how are you such a nice guy after going through all of this? I made a choice. Was I angry? Yeah, I was angry. But I decided to channel that anger into something that was going to be productive. I made a choice. I was not going to play the angry black man stereotype. I wasn't going to do it. I was like, I am not a victim. I refuse to be a victim. Not happening. One of the criticisms that I've gotten for Violin Conspiracy is, why didn't Ray, spoiler, why didn't you make him win the competition? That was your question? Okay, here's the answer. My answer is because he was a young man who came from nothing. He became one of the biggest stars in the classical music world after everyone told him that he couldn't. He did his absolute best because it's what he loved to do. He represented the United States on the international stage. If that's not winning, I don't know what is. Winning does not always mean coming in first. And not only did he learn, but people learned from him. So, are those people in the Violin family, your family, wow, they are a trip. What is going on with those people? Grandma Nora was 100% real. She was about this tall, with pink and green rollers in her hair, and every time she would walk, they would just fall behind her. And my siblings and my cousins and I would always pick them up and snap them at each other, and that was a lot of fun. And she would be like, where is my hair roller? I was like, Grandma, you left like a trail back there. What are you talking about? And they're always pink and green. And she had that blue stuff in her hair. I don't know if, somebody knows what I'm talking about. Her hair was indigo for some reason. And I'm like, Grandma, I would always ask, we would all always ask, why is your hair blue? Honey, it just is. I'm like, okay. All right, Grandma, is that going to happen to me? No, mine fell out instead. All right, okay. Thanks, Grandma. I noticed all my uncles on my mom's side, all my maternal uncles, every one of them. And we all went gray early. Like, I've been gray since I was like 33. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I have an uncle who's like 78. And I was like, dude, who are you? He was like, I'm your uncle, blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, I hope I look this good when I get your age. What are you talking about? You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it. So there's some hope for me in there somewhere. I just got to keep moisturizing. All right. So Grandma Nora, absolutely real. And she was the sweetest woman on the face of the planet. And I actually had some of those conversations with her. And she would always tell me, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Just stay sweet. Stay a nice person. Just be nice. And I asked my cousins, my aunts and uncles, my mom, I was like, Mom, was it me or was Grandma always, I mean, she was super sweet. Is it me? They're like, no. Every single one of them had the same thing to say about her. She was the sweetest woman on the planet. She never had a bad thing to say about anyone. One time she told me that one of her daughters got into a fight with some girl down the street. And instead of scolding, getting mad at the girl, whatever, getting mad at whom, Grandma was like, instead of taking her daughter's side, Grandma was like, well, you never know, honey. She may have had a really bad day. And I'm like, wow, this is a sweet woman. And she was just amazing. And I wanted to share her with everyone because all the love that she would give to me and my family. And I hope that there's a Grandma Nora in everyone's life. I really, really do, because it'll make everything better. Hey, how do you say Grandma Nora in sign language? Grandma. No. Grandma. Nora. Nora. Thank you. Thank you. I got that right. All right, so I'm sorry. And the mom in the story. I know you guys love Mom, right? Mom was a piece of work. She was not my mom in the story. I just made Mom like that. I made Mom like that specifically because how many black mothers or black fathers for that instance, how many of them have a kid who wants to learn to play the violin? And maybe Mom was so mean to Ray because she'd never seen anyone like him be successful in the field that he was trying to go into. Perhaps it was her way of protecting him. Can anyone see that side of it? No. All right, okay. All right, she was just a nasty, nasty woman. All right, cool. Established. All right, that's great. Are the aunts and uncles your family for real? Well, Uncle Thurston was an actual uncle of mine. I only used his name. His character is nothing like the uncle in the story. And I was at a book signing in LA, and he lives in LA, so he came to the book signing and had the book, and he was like, hey, nephew, how you doing? I'm like, hey, Uncle Thurston, how are you? It's really good to see you. And he was all, hey, can you sign this book for me? I said, Uncle Thurston, you haven't even read this, have you? He's like, no, I'm planning to, though. I'm planning to. I heard I was in it. I was like, oh, yeah, you're in it. He probably still hasn't read it, but it was great to see him, and I signed his book, and I remember him when I was a kid growing up, and that was fun. I love writing family dynamics. 1, because it's fun. 2, because it's something that every single person in this room can relate to. Family dysfunction. Is there anyone in here who has no family dysfunction? Right. Everybody can relate to family dysfunction. Maybe not to the level of Ray's family, but you can actually, it's a part of life. Everybody has some type of family dysfunction. So that's where the family came from. The Andrea and Dante Marks. How many of you like them? All right, no, they were fictionalized. I just kind of made them up just to, because we all know someone like the Marks. We all know someone like that who feels extra entitled, who feels like because they're at a certain zip code or because they make a certain amount of money that they're entitled. We all know people like that, yes? So I just wanted to represent that characteristic in the book. It's a real thing. It's true life. Christoph. Do you guys remember who Christoph was? He was the guy that Ray hired to help him with his showmanship. The German guy. That was his show, right? I tell you. Did Grandma Nora really like pink roses? Oh, that's a good question. One reason, I made that up just for showmanship. But I like to, when I come to do book talks, to represent my grandmother. You'll notice what color shirt I'm wearing today. That was specifically for my grandmother, and I try to do that. It's usually in the form of a pink t-shirt, but I got a pink shirt for Christmas, so I had to wear it. But that's one of those things. I truly enjoy writing family dynamics because family is important. That's the one thing that everybody has at some point, and I'm just telling you now because I lost my mom and I lost my brother recently. Just love your family, hug them any opportunity you get. Any chance you get, tell them, don't wait until it's too late. Please don't do that, because when you're done, you're done. When it's gone, the opportunity is gone, 100%. I am so incredibly grateful to every single person that has helped me on this journey. I was almost homeless before I wrote this book. I had no money. There were no jobs available because of COVID. There was nothing I could do. The government money, I saved as much as I could. I saved up until January. I had enough money to pay my rent through January. I was like, what am I going to do after this? So when the book sold in November, it was a blessing. My agent is a blessing because he took a risk on me. You know, he trusted me to go with this story that he really didn't feel like he could relate to. He was like, I don't know anything about your family background. Stuff like this doesn't really happen. And my response to him was, I am living proof that it does. I am telling you. And there were more people out there that things like this have happened to than you're aware of. And I think that people will be able to relate to this story, not only because of the situations that take place, but also because of the perseverance that it took the protagonist to get to where he wanted to be. He never quit, although he wanted to. He never gave up, although he wanted to. I've adopted that as my mantra. There's so many times I wanted to quit. So many times I just said, I can't do this. So many times where I said, this is too much. It's not for me. I believe them. They were right. I was wrong. But just when I got to that point, there was always someone there to give me the kick that I needed, to give me the hand that I needed, to give me the boost that I needed. So I actually have, you can't really see it, I have thank you tattooed on my forearm here. So I can constantly remind myself how grateful I am to every single person that has helped me to get to where I am and to where I'm going to be. My goal is to become the Stephen King of musical thrillers. And I think I can do it because people like you guys have supported me and hopefully will continue to support me. And all of the help that I got from people who didn't know me didn't need to. They didn't need to do that. When I was teaching high school, I taught high school for 23 years, I would always beat into my kids, you gotta be nice, you gotta be thankful. Never, ever, ever put someone down for any reason. Because on your way back down, and it eventually happens to all of us at some point, you're gonna meet those same people. And they're gonna remember. Every single person I run into is very special to me because you guys are the reason that I am here today. And if I come across as insincere, I truly apologize, but 100% I thank each and every one of you, and I love you all. Thank you. Are we good on time? Time, okay. Okay, you can talk into here if you want.
Hello. Is this good now? Okay. Hi. I know that we're going to get to some of your questions, but beforehand, I just want to take a moment of library pride and thanks. We have in our library an innovation hub, and though it's not your violin, your stolen violin, we do want to offer you a one-of-a-kind, unique replica of your book that was made in our hub. It's yours forever. You're very special to us, and we wanted to give you with that.
Oh my God.
Thank you again for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, this is amazing. Look at
I'm gonna
that.
turn this over to Stephanie to offer some questions up from the crowd. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it's okay. I took wood shop in high school. I don't remember.
Thank
What up,
you
Steph?
so much. Hello. Can I have everybody give one more big round of applause for our author?
Wait, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I'm good. Okay. Has anybody seen the show, and I asked Stephanie backstage, has anybody seen the show Letterkenny on Hulu? Who has? Okay. So why am I not wearing a belt? Because my pants fit. That's the thing you got to watch that show. It's really funny, but it's very Canadian, so you got to put on the subtitles. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to sit down because.
Yes,
Thank
right?
you.
Thank you so much. Woo! Woo! Take a minute.
Strong sake. Yeah.
Yes. All right, I have a couple of questions for you from our audience members.
Awesome.
So our first question is from Laurel. How did you select the music for the book? I loved listening to the playlist on Spotify.
Thank you, Laurel. I chose the music based on things that I have played growing up. All of those pieces I actually have played, and I remember them being some of my favorite pieces. Some that I remember the first time I made regional orchestra. You know, I'm the only black dude sitting in the second violin section. And, you know, I was just kind of like, I was a spot in the crowd, literally. And the piece we played, March Slav. And it's the first time I played that, first time I heard it. And it just, every time I hear it, it gives me a chill. And I want to share that with people who've never heard this stuff before. And there's some new pieces that I know a lot of you are unfamiliar with. And, you know, hopefully there's some of your favorites now, just because I love that particular set of music. It's what I grew up with.
Absolutely. It's such a cool add-on to the book, too,
I'm
to
glad
be able
it
to
worked.
add that. So very nice. Leslie is asking, you can only pick one thing. What is your one thing that you hope readers take away from the Violin Conspiracy?
Leslie, awesome. Are you here, Leslie?
Oh, right there.
Where?
Over here.
What? She said over there? Oh, is that you? Hey. The one thing that I want people to take away is to do what you love and never, ever, ever, ever give up. Never give up. No matter how hard it gets, never, ever give up. If there are any, hang on, wait, God, y'all in this applause. I don't know if any guys know sports or whatever, but NCAA basketball, North Carolina State University, when they won the when they won the championship, Coach Jim Valvano in 1993 gave the most inspiring speech I've ever heard ever in my life, and I quote him. He was battling cancer. He didn't live too much longer after that, but at the end of his speech, he said, never, ever, ever give up. No matter how hard it gets, never give up. And I've always adopted that afterwards, and it's stuck with me since then, and I'll probably have it tattooed on my other arm.
We got this question from a couple of people. What did Ray do with the GoFundMe money? Come on, Brendan.
All right. So I've been asked this question a number of times, and the only reason I did not include what happened with the money is because there are only so many pages I could put into a book. I mean, it would have been a super long book, but since all of the GoFundMe funds were digital, they were all returned, and I should have put it in, I'm sorry. Someone blasted me on an email about that. What did he do with that money? I can't believe you. I was like, oh. Did he give it to his family? Those are terrible people. I'm like, oh my God. No, it all, because it was all digitally done, it was all digital currency, it all went back to the people who had donated from their credit cards and all of that good stuff, debit cards. It went back to the people. Ray didn't see a penny of it.
Very nice. Okay, Judy would like the Violin Conspiracy to be turned into a movie. And we would like to know, who is your actor to play Ray?
I think it should be, well, my pants fit, so it's okay. I think it should be obvious. I obviously will play old Ray at the end. But there's actually I think it should be a musician rather than an actor to play that part. because a musician who looks like me is probably going to have experienced some of the things that Ray has experienced, and I just don't think you can. You can't reenact that realism. But there's a violinist who plays for Sony. He's a soloist. His name is Randall Gooseby. Who knows Randall? Okay, does he not? Is he Ray? He is totally Ray. And he's amazing. And not only that, he's a good-looking dude. He's young, so I mean, he reminds me of a lot of me when I was his age. That's him.
Yeah.
But I'm going to speak. Okay, yeah, thanks. Thank you. Was it Leslie, Linda who asked that? Whoever it was. Thank you.
That one was Judy.
Oh, Judy. My bad.
Carla has the question: is your book semi-biographical as far as any experiences with racism are concerned?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I think I spent like 40 minutes just talking about that.
Right? Ask and answer.
And I did say I was going to preempt some of your questions.
Mary would like to know, what is your connection to Erie, Pennsylvania? That's her hometown.
Where are you?
Is Mary here? That was an online submission. She's probably watching it on YouTube.
Is this being recorded?
Yeah, it's being streamed to YouTube.
Okay,
Ooh.
so no, Erie, I actually lived in Erie for 2 years. 2 winters was all I could handle. People laugh when it snows from October through April, and you shovel, and an hour later, it's higher than it was before. I couldn't do it. It was too cold. It was too cold. Even when it was 70 degrees, it was cold. And I'm like, I think I wore shorts the 2 years I lived in Erie once. I always had on jeans and a sweatshirt because I was always cold. It's cold there. It's just too cold. Too close to Canada. I can't do it.
I know that you had said in your talk that the goal is to be the Stephen King of musical thriller novels. But Liz has the question, when you first conceived the idea for this book, did you originally plan on making it a mystery, or did the mystery aspect come to you later as you developed the characters?
It was actually suggested that I turn this into a mystery because that would add a layer of energy to the book. I mean, I'm a violinist. I don't want to read a story about a violin. I don't. All the ones that I've read, they've been terrible. And I'm just kind of like, well, my agent actually suggested we do a mystery. What kind of mystery element? I was like, well, my violin was stolen. He was like, why didn't you tell me that? I was like, oh, I don't know. So I went in that direction, and it was so much fun to do. And I'm going to go ahead and, this is probably on there. Dude, I'm not going to give this one away. When people ask me if the ending with whoever stole the instrument, was that the original ending? Absolutely not. I went through like 5 different endings. Originally, I'm only going to give one spoiler. Originally, it was the guy it was at his competition, Mikhail. Originally. But yeah, I forgot what kind, Serbia, yes. I wrote that in 2020. I haven't read it since. I'm sorry. It's been a long time. But I'm gonna read it again when I get home. Right. I love this. This is awesome. Sorry.
Jennifer would like to know, as someone who tried for a long time to make it in the classical music world, who is now a librarian, what advice do you have for classical musicians?
Well, first, I think being a librarian is probably the second best profession to being a musician. When I was a kid, we would go to the library every other week. Every other weekend, we go to the library, and my mom would allow us to take a stack of books. We could not take them back until not only we read them, but told her about them. And she was instilling a love of literacy in us, and we had no idea that was being done. So we were always advanced in reading comprehension and everything. It was because my mom did that. It was because of our library. And she was like, it's the best free thing that we could do as a family. And, you know, I hope that holds true today. So, you know, my hat is off to librarians, because you guys do an amazing job, and you're so important. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Now, I actually forgot what the question was.
What advice do you have for classical musicians trying to make it work?
Never, ever, ever give up. That's first and foremost. Do not take criticisms personally. They're only there to help you. You're just going to get better. Take what you can use, discard the rest. Work your butt off. And then when you've worked your butt off and another butt grows back, work that one too. You've got to put in the work, and you've got to be passionate about it. You've got to love it. Like I was telling these young people who were playing, who were phenomenal, by the way, I was really impressed, at the string quartet, and I said to them, what are you guys going to do after high school? 3 out of the 4 said they were going into music, and I said to them, the moment is no longer fun for you, quit. The moment that you no longer get joy from doing what it is that you're doing, just put it down. People enjoy seeing you having a good time. You're bringing all of these people enjoyment. You've got to absolutely love what you do, and you've got to work your butt off. You do that, nothing is going to be able to stop you.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. For our final question.
Oh, no.
Because we're all close friends here, you're going to need to tell us about your next book.
Oh.
We want a plot.
You want a plot?
We want a plot.
Okay. Well, I'll do that. Okay. So before that, Violin Conspiracy, my second book, Symphony of Secrets, which is my absolute favorite, and my third book will be out in May. It's called The Dark Maestro. They all take place in the same universe. So there are references to characters and interaction between each one. And if you have not read Symphony of Secrets, which is my second book, one of the main characters is mentioned in the last chapter of the Violin Conspiracy. I know, right? So, yeah, it is. It's my favorite. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I like you. You're nice. My third book that's coming out is entitled The Dark Maestro. I'm working on the elevator pitch. I haven't quite gotten it down to 30 seconds yet. But it's about a young man named Curtis who lives in Southeast D.C. He has a drug dealer for a father and a mother figure who is his father's on-again, off-again girlfriend. He decides to play the cello in a public school music program. He doesn't know what a cello is, but he wants to play it, and he loves it. He loves it. He plays. He actually gets pretty good at it. And to keep him kind of occupied, his mother figure will give him a comic book every now and then, just to keep him from practicing. It's like, dude, you got to do something else besides practice. So he grows up, his father gets busted for drugs, goes to jail. He grows up, gets a major scholarship, goes to Juilliard, becomes this fantastic cellist. Dad gets out of jail, gets a new job with the same drug boss. Curtis, the protagonist, the cellist, is playing at the New York Philharmonic. As soon as he's done, the FBI come and say, come with us, your life is in danger. His father has decided to turn state's evidence against his drug-dealing boss. So the family has to go into witness protection. His career is literally yanked right from under him. He's miserable, as you would obviously, So it's about how they navigate life in witness protection and loyalties and what do you do, how far would you go for someone that you love. They eventually take matters into their own hands because the FBI is not going to be able to they can't nail the boss. So they have to take matters into their own hands to do it. And how far will they go to protect the people that they love?
That sounds amazing.
It's a terrible elevator pitch. I got to work on it. Sorry.
I do want to remind anyone that's interested, we are selling copies of Brendan's, both his books that are published now outside in the lobby. I want to thank you so much. This was amazing.
Oh.
We are so lucky to have you come and talk a little bit about what you do. So I just want to say thank you from all of us here and give you one last big round of applause. And thank you so much to our lovely ASL interpreter. And then everybody, Brendan will be signing books in the lobby after this.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. That was fun. Look at this. Have you seen this? That is amazing.